Hello, listeners, and welcome back to my REI Secret Weapon, where we're studying The Orange Revolution by Adrian Gostick and Chester Elton. We are now on chapter 6. Chapter 6 is No Surprises, Mastering Orange Communication. So our diagram looks like the cause leading into wow and curving around the basic four, which is goal setting, communication, trust, accountability, and we're adding recognition. We're in no surprises and leading into cheer. Cheer curves around team esprit de corps, which is focus, loyalty, engagement, and satisfaction. And the diagram ends with breakthrough results or sustained success. If you're following along in the book, this is where we are. Chapter 6, No Surprises, Mastering Orange Communication. Imagine buckling yourself into a $30 million high-performance jet, launching into the sky at 500 miles per hour and performing complex flight maneuvers just inches away from 5 similar aircraft operated by world-class pilots. Such amazing exhibitions require a stellar team. The Blue Angels, the epitome of teamwork. Since its first flight demonstration in 1946, the team has performed shows for more than 455 million spectators, 13 million last year alone. And our copyright date for your reference is 2010. By the way, other books by this duo are The Carrot Principle, The Daily Carrot Principle, The Invisible Employee, A Carrot a Day, and The 24-Carrot Manager. So here we go back to 13 million last year alone. After World War II, the team performed in order to keep the public interested in naval aviation. By the end of the 1940s, they were flying their first jet aircraft. As technology changed and jets got faster, the Blue Angels continually upgraded to newer, sleeker, and quicker aircraft. Over the years, as the United States has participated in various armed conflicts around the world, the Blue Angels have been deployed. Today, however, the team's mission is to enhance the Navy and Marine Corps in their recruiting efforts and to serve as an ambassador for those branches of the service. We interviewed Scott Beer, a pilot who flew with the Blue Angels for 3 years, the maximum time permitted, to learn about the secrets of the team's success. When you join the Navy, they don't send you to Teamwork 101, says Beer. Of course, boot camp in any of the armed services provides a fantastic foundation. Everyone wearing the same clothes, sleeping in a bunk room, organizing your military issue belongings exactly the same as the guy next to you. Boot camp brings people to a realization that they have become one team instead of many individuals. Yet when we're talking about breakthrough teams, that synergy that you feel when you understand and build on the people around you, even the military doesn't prepare you for that. I was part of many teams, but none like the Blue Angels. There, I experienced a synergy that is indescribable. The Blue Angels are exemplary of much more than the skills necessary to fly. They exhibit qualities that are enviable and would benefit any organization that is trying to reach new heights. Think of the levels of trust, cooperation, and individual competency that are paramount to their safety in flight. And is there a team anywhere that risks so much with such a small margin of error? Nevertheless, the reason we sought out one of their stars was this. Small communication mistakes in an air show can lead to huge errors. And the manner in which the Blue Angels have institutionalized open, honest, and constant communication makes them especially suited to illustrating the importance of no surprises in fostering great teamwork. Of all the teams we studied, they were the most striking example of open and honest communication. There are literally no surprises on the Blue Angels team. Each member knows exactly the roles and responsibilities of every other team member during every single mission. And if any problems or confusion arise during a flight, they are dealt with quickly and efficiently before members strap on their flight suits again. Scott Beer revealed that one of the keys to their phenomenal success is that they have a well-established process of communicating. The team engages in a constant review of their efforts, planning before an event, monitoring during, and analyzing after each event. Winging it, so to speak, is out of the question. How angels communicate pre, present, and post. Performing precision moves high above the earth requires complete clarity about the plan for each flight and each team member's responsibilities. The logistical planning for each event is intense and reviewed with the whole team intensively. We hold a brief before each event, says Beer. Even though we've flown the patterns a million times, we sit down and discuss every maneuver and how we'll execute. We discuss the demonstration in absolute detail. The communication is continued during the shows as pilots keep up a steady stream of focused chatter with each other and the ground crew every minute of the performance. The dialogue focuses around something they call the center point. No matter where we're flying, a geographic point is chosen at the location, a point of reference used by all pilots to execute maneuvers. It's the center, the place we all understand, and it's never compromised. Obviously, we need to know exactly where each member of the team is every second of that performance. Such preparation and focus on the common goal before and during the event might be expected, but Beer explained that their intensive communication continues even when the jets are back on the ground. After the demonstration is when the real communication begins. The crowds have left. We've shaken hands with all the spectators who wanted to meet us. We've taken pictures, signed autographs, and represented the legacy of the Blues. That's when we go into debrief because every performance can improve. The Blue Angels discuss every maneuver performed that day. They go over every mistake, every miscommunication, every slight variation, and every detail. And they do so in an environment of total honesty. If I was flying too low or a half second off my mark, either I tell the group or they tell me, says Beer. We discuss everything in the debrief. It's not a short meeting, and it's definitely not an afterthought. Communicating those details drives our synergy, our trust in one another, and ultimately our ability to perform. No matter how talented the individuals on a team may be, and you'd be hard-pressed to find a more gifted group than the Blue Angels pilots, if they are not communicating with one another openly and honestly, they can get off course. For the Blue Angels, that would spell disaster. And though the consequences for most teams are less starkly dangerous, all teams will run into trouble at some point without this kind of introspection. We've all seen violations of the no surprises rule in our workplaces or in high-profile media stories where communication is withheld, lost in translation, or just misunderstood. What happened when John Lennon finally admitted working on a solo album while still with the Beatles? What happened to President Richard Nixon and Watergate? And just recently, consider the story of the CEO who was accused of withholding information and paying out billions in bonuses to employees before his company's acquisition. The results of his surprise were devastating to his company's reputation and the team members who suffered from his actions and their customers. Of course, he broke the cardinal rule that says never surprise the boss or his soon-to-be new bosses, But even more important, he broke a rule that was more devastating. Never surprise your team. We all are human. We all make mistakes. We miscommunicate or undercommunicate. And sometimes we eliminate, either purposely or mistakenly, communication altogether. That's why forecasting mistakes that could happen, planning to overcome those mistakes, honestly admitting when mistakes do happen, and taking accountability and ownership to ensure they don't happen again are all critical. Beer recalled an incident during his career as a fighter pilot that makes this point dramatically. An example of when the lack of communication could have led to an unintended war. He was on a confidential mission in the Middle East. Beer's orders were to fly behind an unmanned electronic warcraft plane, an EP-3, and protect it at all costs. Somewhere in the middle of the Persian Gulf that morning on an aircraft carrier, Destiny had its own orders. In the Navy, we always fly with a wingman, says Beer, but that day my wingman's plane was down, and only he had been given the details of the mission. It was a last-minute thing. So I was going out alone with just an order to support and protect. Beer at the time was an F-18 pilot for the U.S. Navy. He had flown countless missions before this day. He knew his job well and the responsibilities that accompany that level of commitment. But this day, Beer was in for the surprise of his life. The EP-3 was headed west, said Beer. We were off the coast of Iran, and all of a sudden it started heading east, right into a no-fly zone. I couldn't have any communication because it might give away our location. So I did what I was supposed to do. I followed the EP-3 and I kept my mouth shut. Beer says that he wasn't over the no-fly zone for long when he noticed two Iranian F-14s approaching. Within seconds, the planes were within 40 miles, a distance too close for comfort when traveling close to the speed of sound. Luckily, the EP-3 turned back out over the Persian Gulf. Confrontation avoided. Obviously, we made it out safely, says Beer, but it was a tense few moments. Of course, Beer says that situations like these are extremely rare in the Navy. Everything is so well planned that when these situations do arise, it's good to know our men and women are trained to know how to react. But these situations shouldn't happen. And anytime there's a problem with communication, it needs to be addressed so it never happens again. In the Navy, in the workplace, and even in our personal lives. We see team communication failures all too often. One team member has a hidden agenda. Another is pointing fingers and placing blame. One is sugarcoating a negative situation. One simply says nothing at all. One worries about the consequences of speaking his mind. Another has a transformational idea but has been ridiculed in the past. What should be honest communication leads a team to a failure to correct problems or the withholding of vital information that could benefit the entire team. As we interviewed teams, we found some common consequences of failing to live the no surprises rule. First, there were missed deadlines and opportunities. We spoke to members of a design agency. Shannon, a designer, told us that the team learned of a pitch to win a significant new contract at the last minute, a result of a breakdown in communication between the business development members of the team and the creative folks. They had time for just one meeting before the pitch, where a member of the senior leadership joined the meeting late and encouraged the team to pull together to create something astounding, and then just left. With no time for brainstorming meetings and a full plate of existing clients, the team decided they only had time to show a collection of work from previous clients. They didn't get the job. Another consequence of a culture of surprises is a palpable increase in anxiety and mistrust. A team member at one large nonprofit described toxic mistrust amongst her team members. The agency's dysfunctional director kept assignments vague, often assigning numerous staff members to work on the same projects independent of each other. She would also pit members of the team against one another. The result was a team that not only didn't trust the other members, but didn't trust the manager either. Every day, the anxiety was immense, she said. It's impossible to know if your colleagues are out to stab you in the back or if our boss trusts any of us. Surprises also marginalize engagement. In one-on-one conversations, we were told by numerous employees at a large transportation company how big picture communications were rare. They were putting packages on trucks, but they had no idea how that impacted the world, how their team was performing in comparison with goals or peer teams, or how the company was doing overall. We're not supposed to talk to one another during work, said one employee. I've been here for 11 years, and I just tell all the newcomers to shut your mouth and make it look like you're busy. Finally, surprises can cause customer dissatisfaction with lost or confused orders, an inability to live up to promises, a lack of answers, and so on. We had an interesting example in a reporter who had worked at a television station in one of the country's top 5 markets. The woman had interviewed neighbors at a crime scene, and one of the witnesses had said some obscene words on camera. The reporter logged the tapes using time frames that included the swear words, but assumed her photographer would edit the offending words out. No such luck. The obscenities were aired that night. The public was offended, the station's reputation was damaged, fines were levied, and both the reporter and photographer were let go. As this reporter and the station learned, the cost of surprising your customer or audience can be economically detrimental beyond measurement. The point, as with all these examples, is this. In business, surprises and communication failures cost us money. But honest and continuous dialogue allow teams to carry out their missions according to plan. The trouble is that in most teams, openness is taken for granted, simply because we expect execution will go as planned. But the reality is rarely that simple. It takes some effort to create an environment that allows teams and individuals to realize their potential. Members acting on behalf of the team and for the good of the team. Open communication fosters trust, says leadership expert John C. Maxwell. Having hidden agendas, communicating to people via a third party, and sugarcoating bad news hurts team relationships. Your goal should be to speak truthfully but kindly to teammates. Throughout our research for this book, we spoke with numerous teams and senior leaders who were searching to find the answers that can pry open the secrets to clear and honest communication. And although processes did vary from team to team and organization to organization, we dug up a few simple truths that were shared by all. Acknowledgement and respect. On the teams we studied, a culture of no surprises was ignited when team members became aware of and learned to respect each member's responsibilities and personal goals. In great teams, members understood the difficulties each person had to deal with, professionally and even personally. No player, role, duty, or difficulty seemed too small, too unimportant, or even too important. Not surprisingly, that respect extended well beyond the workplace. We heard team members telling us how they admired their teammates inside and outside of work. They shared bits of information as Bryce is trying to run a marathon. Or did you know Sue was made president of her kids' baseball league? So how do breakthrough teams build cultures of acknowledgement and respect? First, they learn multiple roles. On many of the teams we followed, including the Blue Angels, it's common practice for team members to be trained in many facets of the team so they have an understanding of the entire organization. On the Navy's elite air team, for example, even the team physician and ground crew rate and critique each performance. At some of the firms we visited, all new hires spend weeks learning various roles in customer service before they can start their jobs in finance, IS, or human resources. When everyone on the team understands responsibilities and potential difficulties the other players face, They are more aware of the impact of each person on the whole. During one of our focus groups, a software developer in his early 30s told us about his team that was redefining his company's back-end systems. There is a certain intensity with our team that's not for everyone. People want to be a part of it, but some come and are spun out as fast as they join. They have to understand there is no my job and yours. One day you may be working on the budget, and tomorrow it may be handed to someone else because she has time and you are needed somewhere else. Numerous companies we interviewed created shared experiences outside the office to facilitate such a cooperative, respectful culture amongst team members. Shared experiences build rapport between employees and often shed light into each person's true personality. Experiences mentioned were everything from off-site team lunches to in-depth retreats. One group walked every year as a team in the Susan G. Komen Breast Cancer Walk. Another attended intensive leadership development camps together. Kevin Smith is a State Farm agent and business owner in Chicago. He believes acknowledgement and respect have long-reaching business implications. Everything we do, from each sale to the way we treat others, will define our personal brands. And everything we do is about the team, the entire team. That includes their families, friends, and passions. For instance, I found it more important to remember my teammates' spouses and kids' birthdays. When you involve the entire team, you make a deep impact that inspires people to do things that even they couldn't believe they were capable of. Those aren't just pretty words from Smith. This type of respect has helped lift his team to numerous state records for new insurance applications in a month, and in 2009, his business was up almost 30% despite the recession. Availability. Being available for each other is critical to ensuring all team members share information about potential issues and have the opportunity to ask tough questions. When managers and team members aren't accessible, team members feel like islands unto themselves. This leaves room for hidden information, lost productivity, incorrect outcomes, and disengaged team members. Similar to a parent who has no time for his child or significant other, a lack of accessibility sends a set of negative messages to the people at work that we need the most, that they aren't important to us or the team, that their peers are more important than they are, and that their ideas, questions, and concerns aren't relevant. One spirited team member we spoke with told us about his former job at a nutritional supplement company where his boss's door was always closed. This guy was so fed up with the lack of accessibility that he wrote up his resignation, sent an urgent email requesting a meeting with his manager, and then still had to wait 3 full days to quit because she was too busy. So how can you build a team culture of accessibility? First, open your doors. Zappos.com is a terrific example. CEO Tony Hsieh and all of senior leadership sit in cubes without doors on Monkey Row, a line of cubes with a jungle canopy overhead. It's hard to believe, but despite the fact that the company has 1,700 employees and annual revenue in excess of $1 billion, there are no offices, no doors, but there is a lot of communication. Liz Gregerson is administrative assistant for this group of executive primates. In typical Zappos weirdness, her title is the Time Ninja. She says normally you'd have to go through an assistant to get to the CEO or COO, but people just walk up to them or email. It doesn't matter who you are. Whether it's online, face-to-face, telephone, or even a suggestion box, Orange teams have forums, meeting places where all team members join together to share status updates, struggles, expectations, and kudos. A trucking company out of Philadelphia told us that they use an online message board where team members can post and read updates of fellow drivers. A team member at Yum Brands told us about their stand-up meetings before every shift where any question is fair game. And a creative team at an educational consulting firm in Arizona told us how they gathered every Tuesday night at a local eatery. The conversation isn't always focused on projects, said Gary, the managing director. Sometimes the team just gathers to say we're in this together and ask each other what's going on outside of work. Obviously, being available can take any shape or form that works best for your team. The forums are simply a time or place where all team members can congregate and communicate. Accepting ideas. All great ideas were, at one time, considered off the wall. Within breakthrough teams, the free flow of communication is facilitated by an openness about sharing ideas and an ethic of encouraging even the strangest concepts to see the light of day. On these teams, we found a general appreciation of the fact that new ideas, even bad ones, can lead the team to great success, and that challenging the status quo periodically is important. The trouble is, most of today's common workplaces aren't accepting of the flow of ideas. Hierarchies exist that stifle most ideas from the ranks, and some have even told us in the past that they had ideas that could save money, accelerate productivity, or eliminate challenges, but felt they weren't in the position to risk their jobs. One fellow called it the foxhole syndrome. Keep your head down in your foxhole or it will be taken off. How can you build a team culture that encourages creativity and improvement? The first step is to actively seek ideas. Consider Sue Promain, Director of Supply Chain at Whirlpool Corporation in Canada. She told us that when she was hired, some employees weren't sharing within her group because they thought that the feedback wouldn't be welcomed. It's a common concern. But Promain knew her team would not accelerate without the team members' full imagination. So she began not only asking for ideas, but rewarding them, even if the ideas weren't applicable. It's a great concept. Every idea can and should be appreciated. After all, team members are sharing with the intent of helping the team or the organization as a whole. A VP from a manufacturing plant told us that he solicits ideas from all the employees via a good old-fashioned suggestion box, but then rewards each generator with a small expression of appreciation. He says, we read every suggestion at our weekly meetings. Yes, we get some fantastic ideas on our policies or products, but we also get some ideas that are pretty funny. Either way, good idea or bad, I handwrite letters thanking each person for contributing. That's really what it's all about, the effort. And we were surprised once by an employee who had a history of sharing some of the craziest ideas ever. One of his ideas were absolutely brilliant, and it saved us a lot of money. This vice president found that innovation comes from creating a culture of candor. We shared the stage recently with Jonathan Bloom, Senior Vice President of Public Affairs for the restaurant giant Yum Brands. During his talk, he explained that one of his company's core values is we seek truth over harmony. That's great advice that should be shared with every team. The orange teams we observed had come to expect an open and continuous stream of ideas, good and bad. And frankly, we've seen in our own professional lives and through the teams we've studied that bad ideas received in a candid culture can lead to the best ideas. They open dialogue and help people focus on what a good idea might be. Many of the teams we spoke with insisted that ideas that challenged the status quo were just as worthy, if not more valuable, as those ideas that supported the typical way of doing business. Consider again the supply chain group we spoke with at Whirlpool Corporation in Canada, identified by the CEO as a game-changing team in his organization. Many of the employees admitted that they had suggestions that would have improved processes, but because the ideas challenged the status quo, were afraid to share them. That is until Promain came in and encouraged and rewarded an open flow. responsiveness. It's a haunting fear during adolescence that we'll reveal to that special someone that we like them and have them respond negatively, answer with an ambiguous or even worse, not respond at all. Because the fear of no response is so intimidating, people often withhold their thoughts and feelings. Responsiveness is a critical component of creating a team culture of no surprises. And today, this idea is even more critical as so many of the ways in which we communicate are technology based. Through the volume of emails, texts, instant messages, phone calls, and web meetings, a lot of communication gets lost or avoided because it can be. The face to face pressure of sharing on tough issues is often lost. It's so much easier to push send. It's vital to understand how corrosive it can be to put off responses until later. Within breakthrough teams, we found unwritten rules of prompt response. Great team members do not leave their teammates hanging in limbo. They respond immediately and they actively hold one another accountable to communicate. If a team member isn't responding, he is confronted. If members aren't responding with enough attention, the team acknowledges, with candor, the miscommunication and how it could affect the team's goals. Lack of responsiveness, whether it be the timing or quality of the response, can be interpreted by members as a lack of respect, a lack of interest, laziness, or a signal of frustration. And these factors can lead to mistrust, misalignment, and team anxiety. To build a team culture of such responsiveness, Team Kim Jacobson, art director at Red Ink in Idaho, told us that her team has a rule of never allowing team questions to be left unaddressed. I'll get back to you by the end of the week as a fair response, says Jacobson. What's not fair is silence. Since email, cell phone ringtones, and all the latest technologies are equipped to prioritize communication, great teams program alerts and folders to ensure team member communication is prioritized. E.G. Karlstrom, a sales rep for Southern Wine and Spirits in Southern California, told us, although those of us in the field are working separately, it's critical for us to respond to one another. I may have a question from a client about a product that another rep could answer immediately or vice versa. So I always need to know when one of my team members is calling. In this case, responsiveness and prioritizing drive sales. Broadcasting vitals. On the orange teams we studied, vital signs are broadcast for the world to see. Deadlines, goals, responsibilities, and progress are always in view, and members are aware of the objectives of their fellow members and the team as a whole. In fact, this was a consistent practice across all the breakthrough teams we interviewed. Each had implemented some sort of broadcast medium to communicate vital measurements and goals. This is obviously not the norm in most teams. One employee we spoke with summed up the problem in her group succinctly by saying, "Nobody knows what's going on in our team at all." Enough said. So how do you create a team culture that broadcasts vitals? In short, speak to the masses. Metrics affect everyone, and they should be crafted and communicated in a language that everyone can understand. Deadlines, although they do not always affect every single person, are valuable timelines that provide insight and accountability to all employees as to why, how, and where other people on the team might be currently focusing. If all members know and understand that one of their teammates is under pressure, they can help alleviate other duties, responsibilities, and stresses. Some companies take this up a level, ensuring openness of metrics at not only the team level, but corporate-wide. One thing that's helped us stay together is our openness with our numbers, said Lauren Becker, a supervisor of training at Zappos. We have finance classes where we teach every employee to read a balance sheet. Last year, a lot of people in the company wondered how we did $1 billion in revenue but didn't turn a big profit. Where did the money go? So we showed everyone that about half of our money went to buying the goods we sold. A quarter went to rent and salaries. A quarter went to advertising and other expenses. Pretty soon, there's not a lot left over of that billion. That communication about the company's financials has fostered teamwork and cutting costs. Says Becker, I hear our people saying maybe we shouldn't put these papers in binders. Maybe we can do without these pens. They try to trim expenses down. We've become a lot more cost conscious because of our openness. Within the Carrot Culture group, we broadcast vitals via numerous media. We send out a detailed revenue spreadsheet to everyone once a month, and our logistics team sends out a weekly update with current projects, responsibilities, and achievements. We all listen to Chester's weekly podcast. We also hold all hands stand-up meetings twice a week, and we have plenty of other meetings to keep everyone feeling they are connected to our deadlines and goals. Offer help, ask for help. It's a cutthroat world, right? Asking for help in business or at the office is viewed as a sign of weakness, that you're not a master of your craft. But that's not the perception we found on breakthrough teams. The programmer we heard in a focus group said this: I reach out to other developers, I ask for their opinions, then I show them how I've incorporated their ideas. I ask, is this right? We create a bond that way. As we observed within these great teams, offering help to team members, even if a colleague is unsure the help is wanted, opens dialogue. It often leads to team members opening up about problems they're running into, and over time it leads to enhanced trust. It's not about appearing as if you're committed to the team. It's a real sign that you are committed to your team and the success of your teammates. Rolling up your sleeves and helping a teammate also helps team members understand more about one another's roles and responsibilities and specific challenges. And on the flip side, asking for help allows others to understand your struggles, hurdles, fears, and concerns so they can participate in doing whatever will help to solve those problems. Contrary to the old school thought that asking for help shows weakness, it actually reveals strength and shows respect to your colleagues. It shows you trust their advice and insight and opens the door for them to, in return, ask for your insight and advice. While great teams hold each person accountable for his or her deliverables, they likewise hold them accountable to get the help they need if they can't solve a problem or achieve a goal on their own. Managers and other team members often initiate this helping conversation simply by telling their teammates where they could use help. This is often done during team meetings where all are present and can witness the open dialogue. Yes, it would be easier to email one person directly and ask for help, but it doesn't reveal the possibility to others. Back to Becker at Zappos, who explains how leaders in his firm will intentionally give new employees a task they can't possibly do themselves, with the hope that they will have to ask other people for assistance. We don't tell them up front that they'll need help. They have to figure it out on their own. But that tactic has paid dividends. In Becker's department, he has 11 trainers working on courses. In the beginning, we wanted to hold tight to our projects, but we validate our folks when they bring ideas from another team member. Now, when we are developing a training, we realize we need someone who's good at PowerPoint, someone who's analytical and good with a spreadsheet, and the three of us will come together to develop a class. Now our people can't wait to share their ideas. They can't wait to help and be helped. Create face-to-face time. It may seem old school, but looking at the whites of their eyes works wonders. It's one of the most valuable traits of no surprises cultures. The breakthrough teams we studied gather regularly in person, face-to-face, to discuss current responsibilities, struggles, successes, and even fears. Managers make a point of circulating to talk with their teams. Team members go out of their way to talk with other members who may not be currently working on a shared project. They eat together. They take breaks, play ping pong or foosball, or even chat. and is clearly seeing the groups together that communication extends far beyond words. Open communication is more than messages sent and received. There is a value, a bonding process that happens in greetings, sharing ideas, and working with someone that cannot be achieved via any other method. We all somehow understand that value when it comes to children, family, or friends, and yet in business, it seems alien. But over and over, we found the great teams want to spend face time with one another. While we admit it is hard and often expensive, teams with a large number of remote employees still must create opportunities to bring everyone together for intensive sessions that bond and provide clarity. Togetherness. It's one of the most powerful messages we can send. And that's the end of chapter 6. Stay tuned. Chapter 7. Thank you for joining my REI Secret Weapon. Please share my channel with others that you think could gain value from it. And if you'd like to bless me, some other chapters that I've dropped will give you channels for doing that. Thanks for tuning in. See you guys later. To your success.